Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name is Bob, I'll be your host. Welcome to the June Storm. This year's theme is, of course, Star Wars. And the Star Wars role playing game has had many different versions of it, just as it has had many different owners for the license to produce Star Wars role playing games. It started off being held by Westin Games, and they produced several versions of the Star Wars game, all using the D6 system. They had their regular Star Wars role playing game, then they came out with the second edition for the Star Wars role playing game, and then they came out with a second edition revised and expanded. And after this, shortly after that, they lost. Westin Games went bankrupt. And so they, of course, lost the license to do Star Wars. But Wizards of the Coast picked it up. So Wizards of the Coast started producing Star Wars games. And they, of course, made a Star Wars role-playing game using the D20 system. Then they made a Star Wars role-playing game revised edition, which clarified rules and added some stuff. But for the most part, it was the same game. Then they came out with a Star Wars the Role Playing Game Saga Edition, which did some new stuff, and we've talked about all those before on this channel. Then, in order to try and funnel even more money into their failing 4th edition game, they let the license for making Star Wars role playing games lapse, and Fantasy Flight Games then got a hold of the license, started producing their own role playing games. And they have Fantasy Flight Games is really interesting. They have 3 core books for the game. Each one is its own separate individual role playing game. Yet at the same time, you can combine them all together for a larger game. First one they came out with was Star Wars Edge of the Empire, the role playing game. Then they came out with Star Wars Age of Rebellion, the role playing game. And then they came out with Star Wars Force and Destiny, the role playing game. And the one we're going to talk about in this video in particular is Star Wars Edge of the Empire. This book has 443 pages and a copyright of 2013. And of course, it was published by Fantasy Flight Games. And all the artwork in this book is in full color and is really good. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork. All of the artwork in this book is in full color. And I have to admit, the artwork in this book is really impressive as well. It goes a long way to setting a proper tone and mood for this game. I mean, just look at these dirty little Jawas, always out there harassing innocent droids. To play this game, what you're going to want is, of course, a copy of this core rulebook, and mine has seen better days. It was damaged pretty badly in a car accident that I was involved in. I was fine, of course, and still am, but unfortunately my book was badly damaged. So there's that. But you'll need this core rule book and a full set of specialty dice, which we will talk about later because there's a lot to go over with these and it can be a little complicated. We'll go over those in a little bit. Character generation in this game is pretty simple, but a little different. First thing you're going to want to do for your character is come up with a background for your character. And, where he's from, what he's doing, how he got into it, and so forth. Then you'll want to figure up an obligation. And they have a chart in here that you can roll a percentile die on to figure up your character's obligation. Now, obligation is something that'll come up from time to time. Your game master will roll a percentile die at the beginning of every game to figure out whether the obligation is going to come up or not. But it's a debt your character owes, something that your character is running from, or something. It's all explained in here. There's lots of different obligations. The next thing you'll want to do is you want to pick a species for your character. The player character species presented in this book for starting characters are the Bothan, the Droid, the Gand, the Human, the Rodain, the Trandoshan, the Twi'lek, and the Wookiee. And each game has different species, but we'll get to that when we look at the other games. Now, your species will give you your character's starting attributes. The attributes used in this game are brawn, agility, intellect, cunning, willpower, and presence. And each species will give you a base for all those. And you can adjust those later in character creation, but we'll get to that. Your species also gives you your wound threshold, a formula for figuring out your wound threshold, formula for figuring out your strain threshold. It gives you some starting experience points and your special abilities. The starting experience points can be spent at character creation in order to increase your character's attributes, buy more skills, buy more talents, and so forth. Well, and that's how that works. But after you get your species and figure that stuff up, you want to pick a career and a specialization. And what you have to choose from is you have the bounty hunter as a career, and the specialties for it are assassin, gadgeteer, and survivalist. The next career is colonist, which its specializations are doctor, politico, and scholar. The next career is the explorer, and its specializations are fringer, scout, and trader. Then you have hired gun as the next career, and its specializations are bodyguard, marauder, and mercenary soldier. The next career mentioned is the smuggler, and its specializations are pilot, scoundrel, and thief. The last one is technician, and its specializations are mechanic, outlaw, or slicer. And the way it works is you pick a career and you pick one of the specializations to go with it. And your career will give you some basic skills. Specialization you pick to go with it will give you even more skills, and will give you a talent tree of talents that you can purchase for your character with experience points, both starting and experience points that you earn later on through playing your character. After that, you'll determine a motivation for your character, and they've got some charts in here that you can roll on to determine the motivation for your character. Then you'll figure out your character's starting gear, and the last part of character generation is a group thing. You pick a ship that the whole group shares and that they can move around through space in. And that's character creation. There is one other career path that you could choose at character creation, and they discuss it in the Force section. This book is not real big on the Force because the time period for this game is the Rebellion era, and that this new other career path that you can pick is the Force sensitive exile, and that's only if your game master will allow it. Now, this game, like I said, uses specialty dice, and there are good specialty dice and there are bad dice, and then there's a Force die. So let's take a look at those dice and discuss them now. Okay, so let's look at the dice that we got. For this game, it uses specialty dice, and you can get a pack of them, probably order them online. You might still be able to find these at a gaming store, but I don't know. And if you don't feel like using special dice, the book has got a chart that you can roll the equivalent sided die and figure out what your result is. But in these packs, you got several different types of dice for the game. These packs also came with chips to represent your force points. Well, they call them destiny points in this game. And your dark side points. And at the beginning of every game session, you roll the force die, which is this 12-sided die right here, which has black peps to represent dark side points, and it has white peps to represent destiny points. And every player that's playing a character will roll this die at the beginning of the game session. And for every black pep they roll up, that's how many dark side points go into the pool. For every white pep, that's how many destiny points go into the pool. And these can be spent throughout the game to do various things. And the book covers what you can do with them. There are not very many force powers in the game. In this game, this book at least. But when you use a force power, you can also roll this die to get more force points. You can also, or destiny points, excuse me. You can also get destiny points through doing heroic things. Excuse me. But the first die we're going to look at, it's called the boost die. This die is used for special equipment that gives you a bonus. Sights on your weapon or so forth. A good line of sight or something. But it has several marks on it. This one indicates a success. Well, this explosion indicates success. And this symbol here indicates a really good thing happening, a bonus to your action. And you only get these dice through as a add-on to your roll. The next die we're going to look at is called an ability die. And it has the same markings. The explosion for success. And then this thing indicating a really preferable thing happening. And for each success you get, you succeed at the task. And some tasks require that you have a certain number of successes in order to complete it. And this indicates something favorable that happens on top of the success. And it also counts as a success. But you also have the proficiency die. And it has the same symbols on it, which do the same thing. Now the way this works when you're building your die pool is you add a skill and an attribute together. Well, you look at them both. Whichever has the most die, let's say your attribute has 3 points and your skill has 5 points. You get 5 of these ability dice because the highest number you have is a 5. So you get 5 of these. And since you have 3 in your attribute, 3 of these dice are thrown to the side and they're upgraded to this die. So you'll wind up rolling 3 of these and 2 of these for your die pool to generate as many successes as you can. And if you have like a scope on your gun or something, you might get one of these to add to it. And that's how you generate the positive side of your die pool. But with that positive side, you also get negatives. First die we got for your negative part is this. And this is a setback die. It's just a black D6. And for each one of these that you get, it gets rid of one of your successes. One of these. These two cancel each other out. This indicates something bad happening. And if you got any of these showing when you roll, something bad has happened. You might succeed, but something bad happens with that success. Now, you would think that these cancel each other out, but they don't. These wind up working together to give you an even weirder success or happening with your activity. But just like the die pool, you also have the difficulty die. And these have the same symbols on them. And your game master will assign the task a certain number of these. These, like the boost die, only come in with certain other things, but situational things. But these are what your game master will assign to your character's task. And he'll assign different numbers for the difficulty. After that, you have the challenge die. And it has the same markers as the other bad dice in this game. And this is kind of the upgrade for the difficulty die. And your game master will explain it to you how you get these upgrades. It explains them in the rules. But these are the upgrade for the difficulty die. And those are the dice for the games. And it's not really a hard system to learn. It just may be a little challenging at first to get the hang of. But after a couple of times playing the game, you should be able to pick up on it, and it should be easy for you to go. And that's the dice for this system. And now that we know how the dice works, this book was the first one they came out with, and it was meant to get you started. It takes place mostly in what is known in a sector of space, mostly known as the Outer Rim, where all kinds of criminal activity is going on. So you can think of this book, this game, as kind of like the underworld of Star Wars. If you ever wanted to experience how Star Wars works in the criminal empire, this is your book. And out of the three, this is my favorite of the three. And it does have a map and discusses the other regions of space, but it mostly focuses on the Outer Rim, hence Edge of the Empire. Now, it has a starting adventure that you could run for your players if you want. It has all the information you want for a Star Wars game. Vehicles, weapons, other equipment. It's got a blank character sheet in the back that you can use, and a blank sheet for figuring out your character's home base. And you could actually use your ship as your home base if you wanted. And it has rules for upkeep and enhancing your character's base. But it has everything you need to get started and get going in Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars game. And it's got its, as a role-playing game, it has its own flavor. And like I've mentioned, that flavor is running around the criminal underworld in the Outer Rim. So this brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? And yes, I would. I'm interested in learning more about this game. I've actually never got to play it, never got to run it, because I just couldn't find players for it, which is very unfortunate. Would I run this game? If a group of players came up and asked me to run it for them, I probably would, but I would probably stick to an older version of Star Wars, particularly the D6 version that came out with West End Games. I don't care much for the D20, so yeah, probably not going to run it, but I'd love to play it. Would I recommend this game? And yeah, I'm not big on specialty dice for your games, so that's really a turnoff for me. But they, like I've mentioned, they do have a chart that you could use if you don't want to use the specialty dice. But if you want something different, then this would be a way to go. The game is more cinematic than it is anything else. But if you're looking for that kind of thing, then yeah, but mostly I recommend going with an older version of the game. So thank you for taking the time to look at this book with me, and hopefully you'll join me throughout the rest of June Storm as we look at more Star Wars stuff. And hopefully you join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.